Showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats.
Showtime!
Please make your way to your seats. The show is about to begin.
Showtime!
Let the magic begin.
Welcome back to Futuretech, your weekly source for the latest in tech and innovation and business. And with me, as always, my co-host, John Irwin. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing great, Craig. I'm excited because I ordered my Rabbit R1 this week.
Yeah, you know, every time I think about the Rabbit R1, I get really excited and I really want one. And then I got to take a step back and say, you know what? This is version 1 of the OS.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm in the Discord group, the Rabbit R1 Discord group that they have. So I'm watching it. Yeah, you can join it. And there's people talking about it all the time and it gets excited, but the features they have are very, very limited.
Okay.
Which is, you know, it is what it is. I just look at it and it's like, you know, I want version 3 of this. I don't want version 1. The reviews are not great. And I think that's because of limited functionality. So we have to realize you're getting into the hardware looks great, but the software is definitely what I would consider beta because it's like it's a phone, but they don't even have like a contacts app, for example.
The thing I'm worried about is that after I bought it a few days later, they're like, "Oh, it's just a glorified Android app." So I'm a little worried. But hey, you know what? I bought it. I'll mess around with it. Who cares? We'll see.
Well, that's what I mean. I think it'll be fun, and I think, like I was saying to you, when like they sold over 100,000 already. So, you know, once it gets in 100,000 early adopters' hands, and these are people, usually most of them are probably geeks who, you know, are on the edge. And once they figure out, okay, this is how you get this to work, and this is how I hook this up to if this and that and Zapier and this and that, and here are all the scripts to make stuff happen. You're gonna see things explode. Yeah, but it's gonna be a geek's paradise versus any
for sure.
Normies.
If it can make my life easier by doing one mundane task, I'll be happy. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I'll be envious for a while because it looks great and I want one, but I know that it won't do. Like, I'd love to replace my iPhone with something like this, but then you realize you can't.
Oh, I'm not looking for it to replace anything.
No, I understand.
Augment, yeah.
I understand that, but then you're like, okay, now I got to carry around an extra device that has what? If I it only plays music on Spotify, so you can't actually have your own music. Yeah, well, you can't have your own music on it. You can't have another subscription. You can't have, you know. You can order food through 2 services, you know, and people are saying, well, you got to be careful because it automatically tips the maximum amount. It automatically does this. And like, there's a bunch of stuff that early adopters are going to be pained about. But, you know, it's got like 6 things that are 7 things that it interfaces with. And that's it so far, which is why I think it's not for me, because I'll get it, look at it. It doesn't interface with any of the stuff I actually want. I don't order food. I don't use Spotify. I don't, you know, I could use Spotify for podcasts and stuff because, you know, our podcast is on there, but I don't use it to listen to music. Now actually I don't have a music subscription right now. I've gone back to loading all my old music on just to see what I need because I switched to an audiobook subscription instead.
Fun.
Yeah, fun indeed. Let's get into it. We've got a few people watching. I like to give us a few minutes before we get started to give people a chance to connect here. Hydrogen powered train sets world record with 1,700 miles on one hydrogen tank. Now, the first question is, you say on one hydrogen tank, is this like a propane size tank that you can stick in a car? Or is this like a huge tank? Like, we're talking about trains. That's a big variable.
Yeah. So all I know is that it's 700 to 800 bar pressure tanks. Let me look at my notes about the size. I don't know. I think it's a regular.
I'll find it.
Yeah, find it. So I'll talk about it as you find it. But so this is cool. Again, my favorite topic for future tech, green technology, or if you're using green hydrogen, better than EVs, 100% in my opinion. But So Stadler's FLIRT H2 fuel cell train has set a new world record, traveling over 1,700 miles nonstop on one tank of hydrogen, which is a major feat because it demonstrates the progress of hydrogen fuel cell efficiency and storage for rail transport. So it uses a hybrid drivetrain with hydrogen fuel cells, generating electricity to charge onboard batteries, which then power electric motors. So that's one thing to note. So there's some key innovations here. There's a highly compressed hydrogen storage to carry more fuel. It's, I think, likely 700 to 800 bar pressure tanks. The onboard hydrogen storage technology is a lightweight carbon fiber tank, and it can store 3 times the hydrogen versus the 350 bar design. So that's huge, which helps to extend the range tremendously. The other thing is the increased output and durability of the fuel cell system for continuous operation, around 1 to 1.5 megawatts total. Now, the thing about this is the fuel cell system efficiency is crucial. So there's likely 25 to 35% efficiency to achieve this range using a proton exchange membrane fuel cell, which is higher than previous prototypes, obviously, because they've broken the world record. So capacity and passenger experience are still excellent, apparently, despite the powertrain. The H2 can seat 160 people and reach speeds up to 140 kilometers per hour while remaining silent and emission-free. So it's not a hydrogen engine. It's using hydrogen to power electric batteries that power the electric motor. Something to note, which is a smart way to do things, because I don't think they have an engine that is the size that can power a locomotive. I could be wrong. So there's tons of things coming into play here. There's sophisticated control systems, and an innovative drivetrain, a whole bunch of things.
This is really cool. I'm looking around. I couldn't find which one it is. It says here that features 12 fuel cells at 100 kilowatt each on their fuel cell capacity, but I haven't seen anything on what one tank it means. So I don't know what that means yet. I've looked on a few things here, but I've seen that we have other trains similarly reaching 286 miles per or 286 miles or 460 kilometers before refueling. Yeah. But this one, it has, really stepped it up. That on one train, it went for 46 hours. That sounds incredible.
That does, yeah. So again, for Canadian people, which and everywhere else in the world, that's over 2,800 kilometers of range on a single tank of hydrogen. Now, again, just to put into perspective, or just a note here, is it's not using a hydrogen engine. The hydrogen fuel cells are being used to recharge the batteries, which are being used to drive a electric powertrain. That's where it's coming in. So it's a hybrid using hydrogen fuel cells. Which, yeah. Hey, again, there's no huge, at least I don't know of, engine that's large enough, a hydrogen engine that's large enough to handle a train. So this makes sense to me.
Yeah, the report doesn't say whether green hydrogen was used, but I'm not really worried about that at this particular point, because it's just testing. Mm-hmm. This looks great. It says that they, Stadler's been doing this for a while. They were the person who's, were setting the world records before, and they broke their own record. They have revealed that 2 Italian operators have signed up to for contracts of 15 hydrogen powered trains between them. So it looks like they're off to the races, and that we're gonna see these at least in Italy soon.
Absolutely. And that's where it makes the most sense, is in Europe, because they have one of the best train networks, and obviously in Asia too, they have a great train network. But I feel like the Asian market is more on speed like because they have the bullet train, they have all that, the maglev train, they have all that sort of stuff. But who knows? This could easily be used. Again, the speed is not the best, but this could easily be used to replace any powertrain for any train, essentially, except for those high-speed trains, essentially.
Yeah, and like you said, it's hydrogen feeds the fuel cells, which feeds electricity to the onboard battery, which drives the electric drive. And it says here that there's 2 motor-driven cars with the hydrogen tank and fuel cells in between. So this is really cool that we're talking about. Has anybody taken a GO train recently? And you smell the fumes and the diesel coming off it. It'd be great for this to be, climate neutral.
Yeah, and this is where I see the biggest impact on hydrogen. For example, I know that there is a U.S. carrier, part of the Navy, I think. Maybe this is a conspiracy thing, but I think they have one that a ship that runs on hydrogen, which never needs to dock except for fuel except for food and things like that and supplies. So, like when we're talking transportation, we're talking transport trucks, trains, planes, and boats. I think that's where especially boats, if they can use seawater to fuel the boats, then they don't need to refuel ever.
Yeah, and they were saying they had 80 kilometers per charge before, and with the introduction, because these were talking about electric trains, and with the introduction of the hydrogen and the fuel cells, you were able to get to that, which is amazing. Yeah. I'm hoping that we're going to see, have they talked about how quickly we're going to be able to see these? Can these trains compete at how much they can haul with diesel trains?
I didn't see there, but but I do know as far as versus. So if we're talking hydrogen fuel cell systems versus other alternative energy sources, where we're talking a comparison, right? So the battery EVs, 80 to 90% efficiency, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, 35 to 55% efficiency, and then gasoline diesel only 15 to 30% efficiency. But here's the thing: when we're using fuel cells, we can achieve a higher efficiency. So electrolysis from renewables, you get 60 to 80% efficiency. Natural gas reformation is 60 to 85%, and biomass gasification is 60 to 65%. So each process to generate hydrogen obviously introduces efficiency losses before end use, but it's much more efficient than diesel. Absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously we're talking about, with us, future technology. We want to reach carbon neutral. We want as many sustainable fuel sources as possible for these types of things, and hydrogen looks like the future for a lot of things. This train looks great. Like we can see, if you're watching, you can see the video where you're watching the train, and this is the middle train is the middle part is where the hydrogen tank is. So that gives us at least an idea of the size with the 2 things on the end. This looks great, and this was tested in ideal circumstances, not
obviously,
so are we going to see this adoption? We see obviously they're ordering them for Italy, but are we going to see, do we know where they're coming to North America? Are we going to see more adoption of these? Is there competitors?
I don't. Yeah. I didn't do a deep dive into that, but yes, I think that. So here's the thing, right? Is hydrogen technology for transportation use and storage and all that stuff is still in its infancy. So I feel like we could, in the next 2 to 3 years, double that range. If we just by advancements in storage storage and and efficiency of the use of the hydrogen. So creating it, storing it, and then using it. I think honestly, I think we'll see these trains obviously in Italy in the next 2-3 years. In North America, maybe 5.
Like, we love hydrogen, obviously, as long as we can keep it
green,
safe.
Yeah. So this is the thing, though, too, is a tank of gasoline can still explode. A tank of propane can explode. That's the thing, though, too, is the storage of hydrogen, right? So once we achieve storage of hydrogen at high pressure at normal temperatures, not super cold temperatures, that's when I think we'll see a mass adoption, I think. Which we're close to, because we've covered a couple different ones, or at least I've written about them on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, and this is great because one of the things I'm always complaining about is we live in Canada and it's winter up here all the time. So this was tested as a route between Berlin and Warnemünde, running during a freezing local winter. With an operational per charge range of 80 kilometers way back when, before they introduced the fuel cells. That was just when it was electric.
Yeah.
So it's great that it'll work. It's only emitting steam and water, not anything else. You say these other things explode. Yes, but it takes a spark or flame to cause gasoline to explode. It just takes air to cause hydrogen to explode.
True. Yeah.
So it's just you don't have to add a accelerant.
I know. But EVs can explode too with just a puncture.
Yeah, and did you hear they're cracking down on Metrolinx on e-bikes on the trains?
No,
because they had, from what I understand, one fire, maybe more, but one fire. And there's only they're calling the dealers to find out what levels of batteries are on these things, because only certain approved models will be allowed on the train.
I'm guessing the cheaper models are the ones that are more susceptible. But the thing with batteries is the only problem is with the type of battery that they're using. The lithium ion battery is so volatile. So as long as they can come up with a different, like a salt water battery or a solid state battery, then we eliminate those problems, right? But the problem is with EVs still is that we still have to mine rare earth minerals and mine the earth, and it's very dirty to produce those batteries.
Absolutely. And long term, our power grid's not sustainable for this kind of stuff unless we move to a better nuclear solution or something. And so, it's funny.
Reactors.
I don't know if we talked about this last time or I was talking to someone else about this recently, but I said California, in the same day they announced we're moving, they set their 25%, all EVs purchased by 2025 will be or 25% of them will be EVs. All cars in California moving to, I think by 2030, 100%. And that's great. The same day they announced that, they said, oh, don't charge your EVs tonight. We don't have enough power, rolling blackouts. And it's like, you're not seeing that maybe there's something great. Everyone, who wants an EV can go get one.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting, but mandating them when your power grid can't handle it and there's not charging places. And, we're hearing during the eclipse, people were getting, they drive somewhere to watch it, and then they'd be 6-hour wait to charge their car line to get. So this is where the infrastructure is not there for it. That's all we're saying. And so it's great when we have a small percentage because it's awesome. But as soon as it starts building up, it is going to become problematic on the grid, which is why. And when you're on the grid or when you're charging up the grid, you're only as green as that grid is.
Yeah, I think I was reading an article somewhere where there was a state or somewhere where they didn't like the fact that people were getting negative power bills because of the solar panels that they were using and they were putting back on the grid. But that's what we need. We need people to provide. We need to redesign the grid. But that's crazy.
Well, the grid needs to be redesigned, and because there's all sorts of problems because it's not designed for that, and so people aren't a lot of hydro companies aren't allowing that anymore. people, this is somewhat controversy, but it's been proven, the Maui fires.
Yeah.
A lot of that was because of stuff like this, where generators and whatnot were kicked on for emergency power, and it started feeding back to the grid where these things were shut off and sparked all these fires.
Yeah.
So, there's no, the main power was shut off, but because these other things kicked on and started feeding locally and causing these issues, the grid can't be controlled the way we want it to.
Yeah.
But it's just driving that we need to improve the grid. We need to improve the flow on either side. And if we're going,
we need backyard reactors.
Nukes.
Well, here's the other thing too, is what this would be great for. Hydrogen would be great for, if they can get the storage right, is generators. And so like you could essentially use the grid to power to charge up your fuel cells and then go off grid kind of thing. So there would alleviate that. But there's so many opportunities here. But you were talking about the infrastructure for charging. The infrastructure for hydrogen, we've talked about this before, is pretty much non-existent. If you look for hydrogen, I think they've even taken some away as well. So, but
there seemed to be starting some I saw some pipeline and hydrogen information, so we'll be covering some of that in the near future. I noticed you put a bunch more links in there to look at. I was talking about at some point that we should all be having the high-end solar tiles. When I say high-end, whatever latest technology is now in 20, 30 years, that we shouldn't be putting normal tiles on a roof. We should be putting these solar things. We should have proper control between the grid and our home, whatever that means, because I'm not an expert. But these types of things should be filling up our hydrogen. If any excess power can be used to fuel our hydrogen cells, fill up our cars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about having hydrogen generators, because natural gas generators are the default for homes these days from a power backup point of view, hydrogen would be great. You just have these things that make sure it's full, and then when it does go off, it just kicks in. Or when you need that extra power that you don't have, it could kick in depending what, and refill. So that kind of future is interesting, but we'll have to wait and see, if we get there.
For sure.
Is that a future we want? I mean, it sounds cool, but when you start thinking about what that looks like outside, there's no green space anymore.
Yeah, and speaking of adoption, I just came across an article that says Europe would need to tax steelmakers 500 pounds per ton of CO2 to drive the switch to green hydrogen. That comes from an analyst. So there's a lot of hurdles. So
yeah, but did they talk about what it's going to take to drive the switch to all EV?
No.
In the same breath, did you want me to share this link?
You can. I haven't read it, so I just read the headline. That's all.
You're seeing it. I just wanted to make sure. Calculates that imports of direct reduced iron to Germany from Australia or Oman would be cheaper than domestic production.
Yeah. So really interesting.
Yeah, we'd have to.
I'll read through it after, but yeah.
Perfect. Let me just remove this for a second. We love hydrogen. We love hydrogen. We love you. When what you talked about infrastructure, and I think that is the key. We see hydrogen. We talked about hydrogen cars, but there's only a few places to fill up.
Yeah.
We're talking about hydrogen to power other things. Then we start taking like trains and whatnot. What kind of infrastructure needs to be in place to get hydrogen wherever it's going and to create it?
So obviously we need pipelines like we do for oil. We need storage. We need a better transportation, and not just pipelines, but a way to transport hydrogen as well. And in order to do that, we need the governments to get behind this. So there needs to be government incentives. There needs to be policies. Maybe I should become a hydrogen lobbyist, but there needs to be strategic partnerships. there needs to and here's the thing is you could probably leverage existing natural gas pipelines and storage facilities to distribute hydrogen. So retrofit for hydrogen compatibility, which is interesting. So that's something that we could do. Obviously, we need fast tracking permits and certifications, accelerate approval of projects. There's a lot that needs to be in place in order for us to have a proper infrastructure. And actually, there was an article that I was just reading. This is specifically for Canada, though. But there was it Shell or was it another company that was selling off 200 gas stations, I think. If someone, I wish I had the money, buy up those gas stations, and there's a great infrastructure potentially there, at least the minimum. But I don't think we're there yet. That's the thing, right? So I don't think we're there yet where the infrastructure needs to be developed that quickly or implemented that quickly. But we need a plan in place.
So when you say there's your infrastructure there, I mean, there's real estate there. I mean, those tanks that have to replace, everything have to be replaced. There's not really an infrastructure.
Well, there's real estate. You're right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's great. And when you say we don't need it right now, I would disagree with you. Like, wave my magic wand, I don't need it today. No, but if we're not budgeting and spending the money and start moving towards it today, in 25 years, we're going to be severely behind because we'll have all these things and yet no one will have the infrastructure. No one will, you have to start.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Yeah. We need a plan in place. We need solid milestones or something in place in order for this to move forward, really. Yeah.
What do you got going on, John?
Oh, tonight, if for those listening, we've got Startup Drinks TO. We've got a whole bunch of tickets sold. It's going to be a great event. 9 hours, 3 minutes, and 5 seconds. Ticket prices are cheap for what you get. $25 gets you unlimited food, unlimited drink, but again, under liquor laws. And this is the coolest part is you can pitch, which includes in your ticket, which I love. So you can go up, you can pitch yourself, you can pitch an idea, you can pitch your company, whatever, and you get to listen to other people's pitches. We got investors, we've got startups, we've got Big Four people, we've got everyone that shows up to this.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great event, and that's tonight. So we do it every month. There'll be another one May 30th, because if you're listening to this on the podcast, you'll be missing this too late. You've got another event happening.
Yeah, this isn't tech related, but this is a wellness thing, which I swear by, honestly. So this, if you're interested in cold plunging or you've done it before and you love it, this is a great event. It happens in the morning for those that are early risers. It's put on by Unbounded. Tickets have been reduced by 10%, so you get a decent price. So you do breathwork, cold plunge. They have saunas, mindfulness, yoga. It's a phenomenal experience. I highly recommend it. It's outside in the morning at Trillium Park on May 26th.
So what exactly is a cold plunge?
So it's this tub that's filled with ice, but these have actual chillers on the outside, so they're professional ones, but you just plunge in very, very cold water. And honestly, the feeling that you get throughout the whole day is just phenomenal. There are studies that have shown this. There's this cold protein that gets activated when you do cold plunging.
Yeah, and you can activate that by actually hitting the base of your spine, neck where the meets with cold water on the shower for about 10 minutes a day, according to Tim Ferriss. But I've done the polar bear plunge or polar bear dip in January. It was friggin' cold. And when I did the Tough Mudder, they made us jump in a trailer truck full of ice and water that you had to dunk and swim under and do all this stuff. Yeah, it's I'm just curious as to, I wouldn't want to be outside after usually.
Well, there's a sauna right beside, so you can hop in the sauna right after.
It sounds fun. It's definitely invigorating, and everyone should try it at least once just to figure out if it's for them.
Yeah.
And so you help people get funding.
Yeah. So I alleviate usually about 80. So yeah, the expertise I come is in tax credits and grants. Even if you're a startup, ideally you want some salaries, but if you're a startup and you want some direction on how to get some non-dilutive funding, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Great. Yeah. John Irwin on LinkedIn. I found there's a second John Irwin now popping up in my LinkedIn stuff.
Uh-oh.
So you're going to have to, like, brand new for me. So might have to do something else from a.
Can you send me the link to his profile?
I will after when I see it.
I'll send him a cease and desist.
Yeah. Check out TorontoStarts.com for everything we do. You'll see our podcast episodes for this, our other workshops, our coaching, startup investor drinks. Check out everything there. If you're stuck in your business and are trying to figure out why clients aren't buying or what you need to do to move forward, go to TorontoStarts.com, go to startupcoach.ca, click on Startup the Coach, book a discovery call. Let's have a call and see how we can move you forward.
For sure.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, see you tonight.
Bye.
Wow, that was amazing. That is all